All right, we have head coach of Nashville SC. We'll start with questions in the room. Can you raise your hand if you want to get started?
Hey, Gary. Tough match right there towards the end, but I'm just curious about your take on, there were a lot of refereeing decisions that went on for both sides on all sorts of things, so I would just like to hear what you saw from the sideline.
Well, there were a couple of very, very important decisions. Certainly in terms of extending the lead for ourselves. The offside goal is obviously the first bone of contention. I've not seen it again, so I can't say, but I'm guessing that everyone in the room here has had a better view than I have and seen it more than once. All I would say is that I understood that the rules were, if there really wasn't any real clear and obvious error, then the decision on the field should stand. And what I'm hearing, without seeing it myself, is that there was no way of saying it was offside. The second one for me actually was earlier on in the game on Tyler. A penalty call that I couldn't quite understand why there was no second look. That VAR weren't asking the referee to go and have a look at his monitor. It looked, from where we were, that Tyler cleanly got the ball in front of the goalkeeper, who then pulled him down. So a couple of really, really big decisions in terms of, as I said, extending our lead. And I think maybe the other couple just to look at, I'm not saying that they were anything more than were given, but there were a couple of dubious off-the-ball incidents. I think there was one in front of us where Jacob was visibly stopped in his tracks. Like I say, I'm not suggesting that it was a sending off. I think maybe the clearest one of an elbow was earlier on in the game when Jacob got completely wiped out when he was in full stride. So look, I can't say for sure because I haven't seen him again.
We'll go with Claudio next.
Gary, obviously, we saw a very good game, I think. There were some spectacular performances, in my opinion, from some of the guys in the group. Maybe you'd like to mention some of those for us. And at the same time, what went on that last goal right there? How much, obviously, there is always positive stuff from the other team to keep looking, but how much, in your opinion, was that part, or maybe careless from Nashville to permit that score?
Yeah, look, let me take the first part of that question first. I think there were some huge positives out of the game. There were some huge performances in the game. The opportunities, chances, and goal-scoring moments created outside of the goals that were scored, and it's easy to say that Jacob, may well have come away with man of the match. His 2 goals were terrific. His second one on his weaker foot was exceptional. Fantastic to see Hani out there again. It's been a long while, and I think that lift, that inspiration that he gives the group, hugely helpful. The 2 centre-backs, I thought, did a wonderful job for the vast majority of the game. And maybe that leads on to what you were suggesting there for the final goal. Losing Walker in the middle of that back line is always a blow. It can take defenders, especially central defenders, a little bit more time to get into the game, the pace of the game. Again, I haven't seen the goal back, but I'm being told that there were a couple of players that got dragged into areas that they shouldn't have done. My first thought was that maybe Taylor should have been a little bit tighter to Ruiz out on the right-hand side. Look, nonetheless, we're in the closing moments of the game. I think the vast majority of the display tonight was very passionate. It was very cup orientated. The guys threw everything at the game. We could have and maybe should have been in a better position than we were at 2-1. And there's always going to be those defining moments. And maybe we've seen them. the referee's given, or VAR have given an offside when we should have gone 3-1 up. And Luis Suarez scores in the 95th minute. Maybe they're defining moments in a tie, but we won't know, obviously, until next Wednesday. What I would say is, hell of a game. Very, very proud of the performance from the guys. We created an awful lot against an exceptional team. And I see no reason why we won't go to Miami in 5 days' time, 6 days' time, whatever it is, and put on a real show. There's still plenty of mileage in this tie. But we see firsthand again the exceptional qualities. It's a completely different level of intelligence from the likes of Lionel Messi, Busquets and Suarez. Completely different level. And for the most part, I thought the guys did a wonderful job.
We'll go with the gentleman in the front.
Yeah, Gary, you just touched on it some there, but is there something about playing Miami and everything that comes with this that brings out the best in your guys? It's a lot like the game in August. This was a real fight.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the final, why wouldn't you be inspired? You know, first final that the team have here in front of a sellout crowd against, you know, the best player that's ever walked the planet. If that doesn't inspire you, then nothing will. And maybe we could say the same about tonight. You know, the crowd turns out, which they do, you know, on most occasions here anyway. But I think there's a slightly different edge and feel to the atmosphere when Lionel Messi's in town. You know, he is the show and an exceptional individual. It squeezes a little bit more, of course. It's not always easy to get to those heights. And, you know, on these one-off occasions in such a prestigious tournament, the guys, I think, have left everything out there. No two ways about it.
Real quick, let me. You spoke of atmosphere. I just want to correct the attendance tonight was 31,109 here at Cadiz Park tonight.
30,100.
30,100. Sorry, I also got the wrong number again.
Hey, I'm good with 1,000 more.
Yeah.
Gary, I know you've talked a lot about Tyler just over the last couple of weeks, but tonight, I mean, playing it would look like as the 9 for a lot of the match. Just what did you make of his performance and what he was able to do? Isolated a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to try and get Hani and Tyler together. Understandably so. It's been a little while since we saw those guys out in the Dominican. You know, any moments that I can get, I want them to keep building that bond, relationship and connection. And it wasn't easy. You know, I thought Miami did a really good job of stepping a little bit higher, you know, almost man for man on occasions. But within that, there's risk. And the risk was that we scored early on and we created 2 or 3 other really good moments that, you know, in ties like this where you know that Miami have got the quality to create. We've been given 4 or 5 moments tonight and scored 2. And on most occasions you say, okay, that's good enough. But it's not against these. You know, you've got to turn that into 3, maybe even 4, because you know that they're more than capable of turning the screw. So, yes, there were plenty of moments where Tyler and Hani got a little bit isolated. They squeezed the game and took control of the ball, which they do on a lot of occasions. And it became very much a counter-attacking game for us. But for the most part, that plays into the hands of the likes of Jacob and Hani and Tyler in a slightly different way. So we've maybe not seen the sort of connection and quality that we know both of those guys are capable of. Sam still sits in the background waiting for that third piece of the puzzle to maybe offer a different dimension again. I thought both of the guys did a really good job tonight. Not easy against the back 3 good central defenders. I thought our 3 predominantly attacking players in Jacob, Hani and Tyler did a wonderful job and they've created some good moments tonight.
We're here to the left.
Gary, you know, speaking on Jacob Schaffelberg's performance, the last 2 games, if my memory serves me correct, 5 points in the last 2 games, 3 goals and 2 assists. Can you touch a little bit more on Jacob? Is the confidence there? Has he finally gotten through that just brick wall of just like getting over the hump, I guess is the best way I'm trying to put it?
Well, we're looking at consistency now, right? What we know is that he has a tremendous amount of talent, and he's a frightening individual. Not scary, as you might see some players. They're physically scary. Jacob's a million miles from that, actually, but he's scary and frightening in the way that he attacks the game with his pace and his direct nature. And tonight we saw the very best of him. He was given space to run into, opportunity to run at players. He not only scored 2 goals and took them fantastically well, he also created 1 or 2 other really good moments. And, tonight he was certainly the pick of our attacking players. We're now looking for that push and, consistent level of play. And each game presents a different challenge. Tonight, they played a very high line. The early goal, I think, maybe played into that a little bit more. But when we find ourselves maybe in the ascendancy and higher up the field, then there's a different world that he's got to try and navigate. So, in the position that he's in at the moment, it's a great spot. I'm sure he's ultra confident. He's feeling top of the world. And, long may that continue, because we might well need that again next Wednesday.
We'll conclude with the gentleman here in the front.
Gary, can you talk a little bit about their width? That when they were in possession, they were really wide. It caused Shaq and Lovitz a lot of problems. Was there any thought about changing structurally to combat that, or how do you kind of deal with that?
So they came here with 3 centre backs. Maybe that was his shift. I'll never know. Only Tata knows that. Maybe that was what he planned. But with Jordi Alba out, maybe he felt as though that was the best way of implementing his players. Once you play with wing backs, especially talented wing backs, and someone like Julian Gressel has played that role, I believe for Tata as well, they get high. They're very capable individually. I would say Julian Gressel's probably one of the best deliverers of a cross in the league. His distribution, his capabilities on the ball are obviously, very, very high calibre. But it was the wing backs that caused us the problem. Okay. The change is to put Alex as a right wing back and match him up. In doing so, I felt we would open up too many gaps and pockets for the likes of Lionel Messi and Busquets to get into those dangerous areas in between lines. Because now the game's very stretched from a touchline to touchline point of view. So I left the guys in positions that I felt they could be most confident, achieve the most at home going forward, and I don't think I was wrong in that aspect, because we made some good opportunities. But you're absolutely right. In the end, the right wing back, I think it was Ruiz, started what was the dangerous and danger in that final moment. I think I mentioned over here somewhere, I felt as though Taylor should have got a tad tighter. He was on the field for not long, fresh, and maybe could have got a yard or two closer to the boy, who is by nature a central midfield player. He's not a wing back. That gave them some traction and dragged 1 or 2 players possibly out of areas that in the end were the difference. But I genuinely thought, for the most part, we did a wonderful job of condensing the central part of the field, making life difficult, absorbing some pressure, and I thought the start of both halves were electric. We were the better team for 15, 20 minutes of both halves, and they got into the game, took control of the ball, and finished both halves probably the stronger. So that's the tale of the tape, as they say. It's ended up on even terms. We'll feel aggrieved because we were 2-1 up and might well have been in a better position. I'm sure they feel great that they've scored 2 away goals, but I think the tide's on a knife edge. I think there's an opportunity here. We have some tools and some players that I don't think they like very much and affects them. Make no mistake, they have plenty too.
That concludes tonight's press conference.
you.
Coach, thank you so much. Always a pleasure.